In this part of the show, we're going to be talking about making rash decisions. Intrigued? Hello, I'm Shannon Skinner, and this is Extraordinary Women TV. My next guest is Rashmi Biswas. She is a management consultant and an author. She's here to talk about her book today, Rash Decisions, and I'm really looking forward to this one. But before you meet her, later in the segment, before we take a break, I'll have my regular Good to Know Minute when I ask my guests for their top success tip, and you're going to hear Rashmi's. Hello.
Hello, Shannon.
Oh, thank you for being here today.
My pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
Well, I'm really looking forward to talking about making rash decisions.
Absolutely. Everybody should make a rash decision. Yes.
Now, I notice a lovely English accent.
Oh, thank you. Yes. I've been in Canada now for about 15 years, but born and raised in the UK. And I came here in '97, just at the beginning of '97, the end of '96, and I've been in Canada and been in love with Canada ever since, I have to say. So 10 years in Toronto, and now I live out in lovely Niagara.
And you spent some time in Scotland.
I did. I had a first career in the hotel business, and I spent a year at a placement in a large hotel at Peebles Hydro just outside Edinburgh. So learned a lot, worked in all kinds of different departments. So yeah, very interesting.
Fantastic. Now, you know, you're now an executive VP with Lake & Associates,
yes,
which is an interesting story and how that's tied in with your book. But talk a little bit about your career, you know, your corporate career before you jumped the corporate ship. What were you doing?
Yes, I had a really interesting corporate career. First of all, when I came to Canada, I taught at Ryerson University. So I'd had an academic career in the UK, and so when I came to Toronto, that was sort of a natural progression to work at Ryerson, which I did and really enjoyed it. But then I knew that I had the academic background without really ever having had the business responsibility. So my first corporate job for a corporate North America was with Budget Car Rental in the US. That was tons of fun. So lots of traveling around the US and going to lots of different places that I would never have gone to. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Wichita Falls, Texas, and Lemoore, California, and all these fabulously obscure but really fun places. So I did that, and then after that I joined the Ontario Lottery and Gaming Corporation. Very wonderful experience working in their learning and performance consulting area. Then I joined Sears Canada, worked with Sears in the HR and training department, but then also in the travel business where I actually had business responsibility, and I ran a region in the travel business for 5 years, which was a fabulous experience.
Oh, that's you know, travel, one of my top values.
Yes, I had a lovely day once where we were actually in Grand Cayman swimming with the stingrays, and technically you're at work. So yeah, in fact, my first few days on the job were a Caribbean cruise. So that was a lovely introduction to the travel business.
Now, at some point along your journey, you decided I want enough, or I've had enough of the corporate world, and I want something different. What happened?
I think really I'd been searching for something all along with my academic career and my corporate career, and I never seemed to quite strike the right tone or the right success model for me, whatever that looked like. And I think I knew that I really would be wise to work for myself and see if I could take on that challenge. So I actually made the rather rash decision, in fact, to leave the corporate world and to join Lake & Associates, which was just about a year old at that point, and become self-employed. So that was really quite a bold move, because if you think back a couple of years ago, we were bailing out the banks, and you know, the world is tightening its global belt, and I gave up the security and comfort of full-time, permanent, paid employment to go and be self-employed. So yes, that was a big step.
Now, and this is your husband had started this company.
Yes, he had. Yes, so he'd started this company, and in actual fact,
did he actually rope you in? Or?
No, in fact, he was helping me out, because my original plan was that I was going to do a PhD. And I had made these grand plans that I had an academic background, I'd worked in universities, and really I should go back to academia. But what I realized was that, in fact, that wasn't really where my skills were greatest, and that wasn't really where I belonged. And I was unsuccessful in getting into the PhD program, which was a huge blow at the time. But then, in fact, I realized it was probably the best thing that happened to me, because that really forced me to, as I say in the book, really look at my past, figure out what I was was good at, figure out what I wanted to do next, kind of make peace with it, and not be discontented with decisions that you'd made in the past, and not sort of lay blame for some of the mistakes that you've made, and if only I'd taken a different degree, if only I hadn't moved to Canada, all those kinds of self-torture moments that we go through. So it really was a good turning point for me, because it forced me to get much more serious about creating a plan for moving forward.
Now, with Lake & Associates, your business management consultant, I mean, how do you help people?
We have 3 specific areas to the business, Shannon. So we have business planning, which is a key part of our business.
Yeah.
So helping small and medium-sized businesses with an operational plan or a strategic plan. So helping them figure out where they want to go. And then we help with implementation and coaching to make sure that that plan gets executed, because as we all know, unless you actually implement your strategic plan, it's just a nice binder on the shelf. The other part of the business that we have is human resource management. So a lot of the companies that we work with, they don't have human resource expertise on staff because they just don't need it, but they can contact us and work with us when it's needed for them on a case-by-case basis. And then I work specifically around the people training side, so employee development, organizational development. So I really enjoy the workplace training, workplace learning, so working with the employees or the people of the organization to help the organization be successful and meet their overall goals.
Can you give me an example of how you've helped someone achieve their goals?
Sure, absolutely. In fact, it really ties in with being an entrepreneur. So when Rick, my husband, first started Lake & Associates, he did some work pro bono, and he did some work with a small business owner in the automotive sector that was actually part of a franchise. And that was really around road testing our own models at Lake & Associates, which I know everybody needs to do in the beginning. And we worked with this organization and helped them with sales training, helped them with creating their strategic goals and putting in specific things that they needed to do to be successful. And then not only were they successful in terms of improved sales, improved goals and so on, but then because it was part of a franchise organization, we were able to then work with some other people within that organization. So it was a great way to market ourselves as a business, also show some real benefit to the business owner, and then get exposed to an industry that previously you didn't know that much about. That's really one of the fun things about being in management consulting, is that although I've worked in a lot of different industries, gaming, travel, retail and so on, you really do get the exposure of a whole range of different industries when you're working in the consulting field. So it's lots of fun.
Now, Rashmi, we're going to take a break, and before we do, I've got my good to know minute, and I know you've got a great success tip, so jump right in there.
I do. My success tip, Shannon, is that we need to plan our work and work our plans, and I can't take credit for that expression. I don't know who to attribute it to, but one of the things that we believe in is you need to create a plan, and then you need to execute that plan, and then you'll be successful.
Well, that's good to know. Plan and execute it. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, more with Rashmi Biswas, author of Rash Decisions. So stay where you are. Welcome back to the show. I'm Shannon Skinner, and I'm speaking with Rashmi Biswas. She is a management consultant and author of Rash Decisions. I love the title of this book.
Thank you. Yes, very far-sighted of my parents to give me a name that 40 years later would be useful as a title.
Okay, Rash Decisions. Now, how did you come up with this title?
Just actually a lot of just bouncing around different ideas. And then I realized that the book that I was writing was really the culmination of my experience. And as I was writing the book, set against the backdrop of starting my own business and working with Lake & Associates and becoming an entrepreneur myself and charting that, I just reflected on all the decisions that I'd made that had brought me to this point. So far from being discontented with decisions that I'd made in the past, I actually started to feel really positive about the fact that everything that had gone on before had brought me to exactly where I was supposed to be now. And I bring all those skills from my past experience to Lake & Associates now. And I just thought that was a great revelation, and that we should all have that rather than be disappointed or lament your past mistakes, that you kind of embrace them, learn from them, and then move forward and be amazing.
So did you make was it a conscious choice to write this book because you had healing, or were you curious, or was it were you just being neurotic? I mean, why did you decide?
It certainly was somewhat cathartic. It absolutely was. And I think I actually had tried to write the book the year before, but I had nothing to say. So it's a very interesting experience to go through. And actually somebody I was speaking to just recently said that probably that first year of self-employment, that solitude that it brings and the nervousness that it brings and the challenge, maybe you needed to go through that before you could actually write about it. And that's exactly what happened to me. So I wrote it partly because writing a book, I've always been an avid reader, and writing a book was a lifelong ambition. So I wanted to see that through. And it was one of those things where I had written it down on a piece of paper with my January goals and said, I'm going to do this. So for example, in our house, every January, we take freezer bags and beautifully colored Post-it notes, and we write down our goals for the year. Usually just personal things, travel idea, renovation, something you want to do. And one of the ideas I'd written down was that I wanted to write a book. And we put them then in the freezer. And the reason they go in the freezer is that every time you're in there, you know, every other day, in between the ice cream and the frozen peas, there are your little beautifully colored Post-it notes sort of shouting back at you, reminding you that you said you wanted to do these things. And writing a book was one of those things that I really wanted to do. So there was the satisfaction in doing it. And then as I got into it, I really felt I had something to say and something that was worth sharing, because there are so many entrepreneurs out there. So many women are now running their own businesses and becoming entrepreneurs. And I think about 70% of the economy in this country is really on small and medium-sized businesses. So it's so relevant just to share that experience of being an entrepreneur and feel that you can communicate and laugh at yourself as well as share some of the learnings.
Well, what was your greatest insight as you wrote this book?
I think the greatest insight was that I was able to really recognize that I was in the right place now. So rather than being somewhat self-critical in the past and thinking that maybe I'd made wrong choices or should have worked harder at this or maybe should have taken a different job, I really understood that we are where we are. And embracing that is truly liberating, that you can truly decide that you can go forward in the next chapter of your life and be amazing. We'd had my niece to stay for the summer from the UK, and she was 18. And as she was going back to the UK, we dropped her at Pearson Airport, and off she goes, and she's going to university. And I was saying to my husband, so Hannah's job now is to go out into the world and be amazing. That's her job. And then as we started to talk about it, we're saying, but that isn't just the privilege of the freshman year. You know, that's an exciting time, but for all of us at any stage in our lives, we can stop, learn and reinvent and move forward. And that was the biggest revelation to me, and also it was hugely satisfying, because I think that's something that's really worth sharing with other people.
Wow, for me, that's really, it's truly inspiring. Did you have a moment in writing this book and you thought, oh, what am I doing? Why am I sharing these, my secrets?
Yes, sometimes, although I have to say, I've written it from very much a perspective of full honesty. And I think that's the only way to do it.
Right.
And so it's one of those sort of in for a penny, in for a pound. So if you're going to talk candidly and honestly about your past, then be authentic. You're challenging others to be authentic, so time to do the same thing. So I share what I weigh. I share the fact that it was difficult sometimes in the first year, and I would be secretly applying for jobs thinking that I'd made a big mistake and should go back to the corporate world. I share my food diary. I talk about all the angst I had battling with my weight as a younger person. So yes, it's a deeply honest, personal perspective, but hopefully it's reflective of what many of us go through, and I think lots of people can identify with it.
So why should somebody buy the book?
I think it's very entertaining, so I'm told anyway. I believe it's funny. And I think some of the feedback that I'm getting from people, men and women, which is really interesting, are saying that somewhere in that book they are seeing themselves. And I've had an elderly relative who is 84, and she told me that she identified so clearly with the message in that book. And then I have a niece who's also said that she identifies with the book. And people are just, they're seeing an honest story. They're seeing a fairly typical story in terms of a career path that goes in many different directions, and then the opportunity to reinvent oneself, which is utterly delicious and totally irresistible, that we can all take this on in middle age essentially, and we can choose to reinvent.
With your clients, do you have a lot of clients that are reinventing themselves? I mean, considering the last few years have been, you know, economically difficult for many people around the planet, and some people have done very well, but I mean, have you with your clientele seen a lot of reinvention?
Yes, and we do see that out in the marketplace quite frequently, that people are having a second career or a third career. So it's not unusual, I think, to have one path or two paths, and I think that's all part of the richness now, is that we don't retire at 60 and then stop living or working, and people plan to live and work until they're, you know, long into old age. They want to keep working and really enjoying that. And I was speaking with somebody last week who was saying to me, you know, what on earth would I do if I retired? So the idea that you can reinvent and not feel that you chose a career at 21 or 22 and have to stick with it is a great opportunity for all of us.
So for you, how would you define success? I mean, somebody who works with a lot of companies, I mean, you see a lot of people at in different places in business. You've seen a lot, you've experienced a lot. You know, at this point where you are,
yes.
How do you define success?
I think my own experience, and also working with other companies, is when people are able to define their own goals and achieve them. And I'm going back to the plan, that's really where it comes in. That you're able to determine what matters to you, what's important to you. Maybe it's getting fit, maybe it's increasing your sales, maybe it's expanding, buying another store, buying another unit, whatever it might be. But that you can say, these are your goals, and then you've actually accomplished them. And I think you can define that any way you choose.
So for you, you know, now you're an entrepreneur, you've written your book, yay, you did that one thing that you wanted to do.
You.
Thankfully, you kept opening the freezer door. What is your dream from here for Rashmi?
Thank you. Obviously, to continue to grow Lake & Associates and to be successful in partnering and working with smaller businesses and helping them to be successful. And then for me, I really want to continue to share the story of Rash Decisions, because I know that it's a story that resonates, and I enjoy speaking, and I get asked a couple of times a year to various speaking events. So I'd like to do more speaking, and then I've got a couple of other book titles up my sleeve that I would like to bring out. So at the moment I've got a trilogy concept going on for Rash Decisions, so I'm excited to write the next one.
Now, where can people find your book?
The book's available on Amazon, either .com, .ca, available also through Barnes & Noble, available through Balboa Press. So you can buy it paperback version, or you can buy it for an e-reader, also from Amazon or Balboa.
Well, Rashmi, I have really enjoyed this time with you. Unfortunately, our time is up, but it's been thoroughly enjoyable and really inspiring and insightful at the same time. So I thank you for coming here, for driving all the way into Toronto and sharing your story, and all the best with Rash Decisions.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Shannon.
Well, for more information about Rashmi Biswas and her book and her company, Lake & Associates, of course, you can visit the website at extraordinarywomantv.com, where you'll see this interview and her bio and other information there. And of course, for more information about upcoming shows, past guests, you can also visit the website at extraordinarywomantv.com. That is also where you can contact me. I'm on Facebook and Twitter. Everybody's tweeting these days, so if you follow me, I'll follow you. Well, if you are interested in transforming your life, I hope these stories have inspired you. You've been watching Extraordinary Women TV. I'm Shannon Skinner. See you soon.